and I am here to moderate this week's Community Capital Live, which will feature Benny Overton, who I will introduce more formally in a second. Our normal host, Joel Skeen, is on vacation, as a lot of our usual audience is, because we're now in the middle of August, dog days of August. But the purpose of our Community Capital Live webinars is to explore innovations in funds and related activities around community capital and community empowerment, and looking at new ways of thinking about economic development and local business support. Uh, Hopefully, what we talk about will not just be informational to you. Hopefully, it might inspire you to try some of the ideas you hear about in your own backyard. I will say that this webinar series is sponsored in part by the publication that Jen and I and Paul Spinrad do called the Main Street Journal. And if you're not a subscriber, it's free. So please subscribe to it. It gives you news every week about local economic development and local investing. We also have a partnership with Neighborhood Economics. Neighborhood Economics is busily preparing for a conference that they're going to be holding in Chicago at the end of September, and Jen will share some details about that later. We also have partnerships with Amoeba, the American Independent Business Alliance, and Impact Alpha, where you can find lots of great information about socially responsible investment. So today's focus is going to be on the Tennessee, I guess formally it is the New Economy of Tennessee Fund. And I want to tell you a little bit about the representative of the fund who's come to talk with us today, Benny Overton. Benny is co-director of the Southeast Center for Cooperative Development, and that's the umbrella under which the fund operates. And this organization has been around since 2018, but Benny has a very interesting and prolific labor background. He was the former president of United Auto Workers, Local 737 in Nashville, Tennessee. He's also played a role in the local NAACP, AFL-CIO, and he's got a great business head on him. He holds an MBA from Tennessee State University and now is an adjunct professor at the State University's College of Business. So, Benny, it's really great to have you, and thank you for taking some time to share with us what you folks are doing in Tennessee. So let's just start with the biggest question of all. Where did this initiative come from and why?
Well, it came from, I guess, part of my background in labor. Um, the interesting story is that while I was UAW member, I had worked for a Ford facility, Ford glass plant there in Nashville. And we had the opportunity to convince management to experiment with self-directed work groups there at the facility. And I helped spearhead that. So we formed self-directed work groups, and it was the transformation that I saw in some of the workers as a result of their empowerment, as a result of their real voice and democratic power, that convinced me there was something to this. Now, this was some 20 some years ago or more. But it stuck with me. And so this type of worker empowerment always, since then, has been attracted to me. And so I had an opportunity to explore the potential of cooperatives. And seeing that there was interest in Nashville because I was with a group at the time, NOAH, National Organized for Action and Hope, that allowed me to explore some of the things that we could do to have a real economic impact on the community. And the thought of starting co-ops that would empower workers appealed to me. And so I and a group of others decided to hold a conference, gauge the interest. Interest was strong. And so we decided that we would do what we could to help the development of co-ops and help advocate for cooperatives. So we formed the Southeast Center for Co-op Development. And with that, we saw the need not only to educate and train folks on how to form and operate a cooperative business, but we saw the need to provide funding for that because the people that we were targeting, the groups that we were targeting, were the ones who were basically excluded from the capital markets and excluded from the economic opportunities that we were trying to create. So we were fortunate enough to run into a guy by the name of Ed Whitfield, who was at the time with the Southern Reparations Loan Fund and had recently joined forces with C. Commons of the working world. And we had an opportunity to start this fund called the Net Fund, New Economy of Tennessee. But that was basically how we came about and how that came into creation.
So a couple of things I'd love to follow up on there. One is I know that in theory, anything that is pro-labor is going to be good for unions and they will be supportive of. But I also know historically, unions have not been 100% supportive of co-ops. And so tell me your evolution and the kind of support you've gotten from the UAW and AFL-CIO and others in Tennessee around what you're trying to do.
Well, it's been a journey, and I would say that as a member of the state Fed at one time, and also a member of the Central Labor Council, I had an opportunity to interact with a lot of the fellow uh, labor leaders, and just I think it's more a case of educating and informing folks as to just what are the dynamics of the labor movement, especially when you consider not just the union, but what we're trying to do is create, uh, I guess, real power for workers. We're trying to liberate workers. And if we can do that with contractually, as the labor unions do, or we can do that structurally, as the worker co-ops do. And so it's just, I guess, the other side of the coin. But together, we're both working toward the same goal: is liberation of.
Have have they been supportive of enough to write checks to your entity, your educational work, or
Well, I would say that there's been support in certain quarters. Not everyone is supportive, of course. Not everyone understands. Some see it as a encroachment, I think, or unfortunately, they see it as some type of competition. But it's what we have to do is convince some members to show them that it's not. It's could be synergistic, and I hope that they
right?
see it as so. Uh,
Yeah. So I saw on the website, and you have a really good comprehensive website that I know Jen has posted in the chat. But I saw that you do a lot of public education around co-ops. You run classes. So what do those classes look like, and who comes to them, and what are the subjects you cover?
Oh God. We have what we have introduction classes for one, and that's to introduce the concept of the co-op. And a lot of people are familiar with co-ops on cursory level, but to really get them to understand just what it is that we're trying to accomplish with or could accomplish with worker co-ops. Uh, it takes a bit of understanding the history or examining the history, looking at the DNA of co-ops, and particularly the principles that guide co-op and co-op existence, uh, and the importance of democracy, the importance of democracy in our work, and how we've been basically workers, and most of us, 99% of us are workers, uh, have been, I guess, conditioned to accept some of the current power imbalances that exist between labor and capital. Uh, I credit a lot of that to a guy by the name of Fred Taylor, uh, who's considered the father of scientific management, in his approach of command and control, basically, uh, that view the worker need basically just economic needs, pay them and tell them what to do. And how that type of mindset came to, I guess, dominate the American management thought and at that period. And so it kind of devalued the, I guess, the human quality of work. The humanity of work was underappreciated. And so labor was viewed as something that was subordinate to capital in many ways. And even to this day, that's part of the problem that we see.
Part of what you're focused on is not just co-ops in general, but worker co-ops, because consumer co-ops can replicate some of that, management structure without necessarily a full democratic oversight.
That's true. That's true. And our focus has been worker co-ops for the most part, because I think that's more empowering to, particularly the workers.
Yeah. So, all right, so you have the school and then you have the fund. So tell us a little bit about the history of the fund and who's put money into it and who's been able to benefit from it.
First of all, let me say that it's not an independent fund. We are a local branch of the C Commons National Network. C Commons is a nonprofit national CDFI. And the Net Fund is actually is a board committee of the Southeast Center. And it's a board committee created in a MOU agreement with an organization called Free Heart, another nonprofit. Free Hearts is an organization of formerly incarcerated women, uh, and they were looking for means of bringing some economic liberation to formerly incarcerated women who have difficulty finding employment, housing, and a host of other things. So uh, we formed an alliance with them and formed the Net Fund, principally because we realized that we were advocating for the development of worker co-ops, advocating to a group because our targets population was those that have been excluded, the marginalized, the BIPOC community for the most part, uh, and the low income of this society who are excluded from participation in our economic system because of the prerequisite of wealth. Uh, and so we thought it was pretty cruel to advocate and promote worker co-ops as a means to empower people when they have no access to capital. And so when this opportunity to perhaps avoid the exclusion of the capital markets typical with the net fund, which is a non-extractive funding opportunity, one that doesn't require wealth as a rule of engagement. Yeah, we thought, God, this is God's sin, so we jumped on it. Formed
So
the net.
the types of co-ops that have you focused on for this, are they startup co-ops or are they conversions of existing businesses into worker co-ops?
We look at both. For the most part, it's been startups and typically small startups. What we're hoping to do now is more conversions, and we're hoping to scale. I had mentioned that we're looking at possibly conversions of manufacturing businesses, and I'm saying small to mid-sized manufacturing concerns that may be considering closing or selling. We would love to intervene and or I guess make them aware of the alternative they have in selling to the workers. Uh, and so I've approached the unions and we're going to have a conversation with a conference of union leaders in Tennessee here in October.
I
To
know that one of the deals you've been thinking about is with a closed Bridgestone plant. Maybe give us a little background about that plant and what you see as the opportunity you folks can finance there.
Now, we don't have an opportunity there now. It was one that they had closed already and moved on.
I
But
say so it's more of a tale, a learning tale that you can use for future acquisitions.
yeah, well, it was something that told us that we needed to have notice of these type of opportunities well in advance that we could get in position to make a valid and viable offer.
Right. Okay. So I have more questions to ask, but I'll just let everyone know online and those who came a little late, welcome. But just put your questions in there, and we will call on you in a few minutes to have your part of the conversation with Benny as well. So what I want to talk about is two things with respect to the seed commons. One is what is the general relationship that they offer to local chapters? Because there may be people here around the country who are thinking, huh, maybe we should have a relationship with the seed commons too. So what do you have to present to them and what do they give back to you?
Okay. Oh God, a lot that they give back. Um, and what we presented to them was, I think one of their um, key points of interest was we're trying to create economic power for workers. And we do that by creating democratic workplaces. And so a commitment to that goal is one of the, I guess, prerequisites for them. And then it entails training and educating through C Commons. They have a vast store of resources and people, the network, the national network of fellow co-op developers that we get to exchange knowledge and experience and best practices with. So it's not just the funding, but the education and the support that we get, the ongoing support that we get, and we could pass on to the co-ops that we're trying to develop.
And do they give you some capital that you then can in turn use for your own local co-ops?
Sure, sure. Our loans are seeded by Seed Commons, of course. We have a local committee that reviews loan proposals, and we have our own set of values and assessment. And after it passes the local, then we go to the National Seed Commons Committee and receive a review of the values and the soundness of the proposal itself. Because it's a non-extractive loan, meaning that it doesn't require first repayment except for through profits. So it's only through the surplus that the repayments would be made. It doesn't require credit checks or any other pledge of security from the business owners. So it's completely non-extractive, but the responsibility on us is to make sure that it's a sound proposal and that the team is a viable team that could pull it off.
And what are the size in terms of the loans, or sort of the range of loans that Seed Commons is willing to provide you?
I think typically we've had loans as small as 20,000 or smaller, and some as large as personally our fund as large as almost a quarter of a million. Uh, for others, I'm not sure what I don't know if they have a hard set limits on. the size of the loan. A lot of it depends upon what you're doing, the impact that it's going to have, the economic impact, the number of jobs that you'll create, the community impact that's going to result.
Is there any overhead fee that is charged in the repayment that covers your costs, or your costs are covered independently?
Yeah, our costs are covered independently because we are a 501c3 organization, nonprofit. And so we get funding from donations and grants, which allow us to offer our services to the community at no charge. Uh, so we are there to help uh, the workers to start businesses.
Yeah. So you opened in 2020. How many of these loans have you been able to get out the door, and how what's been in the aggregate lending so far?
Um, so far, we have our lending has, and I guess it's over. I don't have the exact numbers. Over 300,000 in loans.
Hmm.
We, it's a small number of businesses that we have actually financed. Uh, I would say maybe four in all. We've got many more in the pipeline. I think we got a couple coming up for loan proposal this month. Uh, and that ranges from businesses in Nashville to businesses in West Tennessee around Memphis and Brownsville. We just completed the financing for a home health care outfit in Dyersburg, Tennessee. It's a small town in West Tennessee. Uh,
Right.
Doing a conversion there as well in the Dyersburg area. We've got several in the pipeline in Memphis. We've just expanded actually the net fund to Memphis.
Huh.
They have several in the wings waiting to complete their proposals for financing. So, and then
Great.
in Nashville, of course, there's several that we have worked with.
Yeah. Does the state have any programs that support co-ops, or are you folks really on your own bottom here?
They don't have any programs that directly impact us, but they do have some grants that we had availed ourselves of from time to time.
Yeah.
So
So one thing I'm curious about is, if I'm a resident of Nashville
mhm.
and I want to write you $1,000 check to support this, um, as an investment, not as a donation, is there a way for me to participate in this?
As an investor at this time, no, but one of the things that we would like to do is set up an investment fund, something similar to the Ujima Fund in Boston. Uh, we would love to do that, and we have even explored that. We've even explored forming our own CDFI at some point, but at this point, no, we don't have any investment in the I guess the loan funds that we have. Again, is one from based on the C Common network.
Would one thing you might be able to do is, say to me, okay, Schumann, if you want to put 1,000 in, you can put it into the seed commons. Does the seed commons have the ability for individuals to put money in it?
C Commons individually, I'm not sure. I would think so, but I know for sure they take funding from some of the uh, larger funding sources. So
A lot of foundations. All right, well, let's open it up to the audience here. I see a bunch of things in the chat, and I'm going to start with the one person brave enough to have her camera on, which is Jacarla Martinez, an old student of mine. Welcome, Jacarla, and please, the floor is yours.
Oh wow. Hi. Hi all. Yes, Schumann's a great instructor, and that's why I found myself on this great opportunity to learn more. I think I have a bias towards yeah, organizations doing this work in the South. As someone who lived in the South for 10 years, like we're not a lost cause and we just need some tender love and care. Um, Benny and Jen, thank you for being here. My question overall, was just like, I'm curious about the support that the fund has received at the local and state level. I know Jen just dropped like the story of the organization of the co-op development, and that kind of clarified how this came about entirely. But I'm just curious about like the social reception of the fund, and you know, if and how at all it's changed during the this presidency. Would just be curious to like gauge or like understand what you've experienced in talking about this amazing effort, and yeah, just what you've seen along the way.
Yeah, is Marsha Blackburn supportive of this?
Yeah, yeah, right. Uh, for the most part, the public isn't as well aware as we would like for them to be. Um, we are still promoting co-ops and the alternative economics opportunities that co-ops provide. And so that's why we have what we call co-op cafes occasionally, just to help disseminate the word. We have intro to co-op courses that we host from time to time, and then the co-op academy. But what we find is that most people aren't aware of the co-op option, uh, and that includes a lot of the public officials. Now, I guess the local uh, community is more aware of, and the government community. We had, I guess, approached them about housing cooperatives, and were awarded a couple of, well, one grant last year, and we're up for another one this year to actually produce housing co-ops. So in that sense, the local community of Nashville, the government, is very supportive. But it's like a blue island in a red sea. So I mean, that's what we experience.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, lots of things to follow up with on that. Let me, while we're on the subject of politics in the South, the great training school for many years, before even the civil rights movement, and probably even a part of the cradle of the civil rights movement, was the Highlander Center.
Mhm.
Do you maintain a relationship with Highlander and the education that you are doing locally?
Not directly, but I'm very familiar with the directors, or the past director was Ashley Henderson, a good friend, and very familiar with them and familiar with their work. Uh, but we are not directly linked. But we are supportive. I do consider them close allies.
Yeah. Paul Spinrad had some questions about some of the specific businesses that you're supporting. So, Paul, you want to unmute and share the question?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and I, if we weren't recording, I'd have my camera on. Basically, I would just wondering what are some top of mind specific examples of some of the co-op businesses that you've helped formed, and especially wondering if there are any kind of surprising ones, things that folks wouldn't ordinarily think could be co-op businesses. Maybe there are.
I think there's some unique ones, but one that I think if you're ever in Memphis, you need to go to Lulu's. That's a vegan bakery, or plant-based, plant-forward bakery, they call themselves. Uh, Fantastic food there.
Nice.
That's a co-op that we work with and help form. Uh, in Nashville, there's oh God, their name is escaping me now. It's a wellness center, Watershed Wellness Center. Uh, it's a group of therapists. I think they are revolutionizing the therapy business, the arrangement, because that was typically as a pretty extractive arrangement.
Huh.
Therapists who have to pay a large portion of their fees for to the host, or to the property owner. Well, Watershed has turned that on its head. They charge a minimal fee, welcoming the petitioners as co-op members and co-op owners. So I think that's a model that's going to make huge impacts in
Yeah.
that industry. So I'm excited about that. There's everything from a cleaning company that's converting that was privately owned. The owner decided to, and she had been formerly incarcerated, and she decided to make that opportunity available to other folks who are recently reentering. And so they are converting to a co-op to allow the others who typically have a very difficult time finding employment and
Yeah.
give them an opportunity to partake in this economy. So
Cool. Great examples. Thank you.
Are there other manufacturing companies? So now that, Bridgestone, that it was too late to do anything for them, but are there others that are teetering near you that you're looking at maybe being able to do a demonstration project there?
yeah, one of the things we're doing is working with, again, the state fed, and that's the state federation, AFL-CIO, who get advance notices of plant closures or
Hmm.
plants that considering closing or selling. So with that partnership and alliance, we hope to get notice in time to actually accomplish something. So there are some that we're looking at. I'm not at liberty to say at this time just who they are, but it's something that's still in development, and we hope it gives the co-op, because typically we are dealing with in our development smaller co-ops. We want to scale this movement because we think it has a huge impact on the economy. But we're just a drop in the bucket, and when you look at the $1 trillion economy that we have here in this country compared to what co-ops are doing, so we want to scale this as much as.
Well, that's a good segue. I was going to call out my friend Stephen Schaff, if you're willing to be called out, because you've done a lot of thinking about how projects like this can scale up, and just sort of curious how you would, what advice you would offer to Benny and connections.
Well, I'll give you the overall view, which Michael, of course, you've been working on for your entire career, and that is, you're building the infrastructure, the opportunities, the need from a business perspective. If there's a demand, then theoretically, economics says all this should work, right? So why aren't we doing this? The first thing is we got to create the infrastructure and really streamline this and get real community buy-in, because that's where the power is. Now, the other parts, the lack of capital, lack of shall we say, equal representation, because, we're common folks. We can't afford buying our politicians like, our system allows to. So all these things are really important. So it's infrastructure building. And then the work that you do in your community, Benny, of course, is very specific to your community. But the general principles we're all working on and having common are relatively the same. But you still can't take away that in your community, like the work I do in DC, the work we do across the river here, it cannot be applied to, disinvested communities, in other wards in DC. So all these things, I think we're making some progress, really streamlining the language, the networks, the connections, bringing maybe a little more of a business sense to all this. And also explaining that, this is not, tippy, counterculture stuff. This is, kind of the way we used to do it way back when churches, its businesses invested and protected our community. So it's kind of like we're going back in the way back machine, but the rest of the mechanics aren't here. So I think that, especially with the firestorm we're dealing with now, the kind of work we're doing, I think more and more of the, shall we say, mainstream world is beginning to see this. And the more we could show that we're not talking, fantasy, we're talking, this is what works. This is what happens. And can you imagine if we had a more streamlined way or an infrastructure that invests in communities? And by the way, when you do that, everyone wins. Everyone, not just the people in the community, but if you want smaller, lower taxes, then let's have healthy communities. and we'll have less police force. So your taxes can be lowered. So if that's all you care about is how much our taxes are, well, then this is a great solution. But it really takes this kind of real deep collaborative process, which from my perspective, it requires not only a business sense, but a social justice organizing sense. Why can't we bridge the two? And in my career, I've been doing this for almost 40 years in the DC area and now nationally. It's like we speak two different languages. And because of the work of Michael and a lot of people that are attracted to this kind of conversation, we're beginning to figure out that, we're not the radical ones. We're doing it. It's not as glorious as the big boys, nor is it as destructive, extractive, and frankly, a moral, it's a moral imperative to do this right. And the big boys will still make their money. They're always going to make their money, but it's just on the ground strength and power we could bring together if we merge these sectors in a more collaborative, cohesive way. And that's what we call, broadly speaking, and this is where Michael's been working all these years, localism. How do we bring our local community? That's where the power is. So it's not easy, but more than ever, as we look at our world, and this is not a maybe should we, it's we better hurry up and do this.
It's absolutely necessary.
Yeah.
Especially,
Really,
you see, I mean, it's crystallizing before us the big inequality that's being just ignored by the current administration. So we've got to do something. And that's why I had a call out to labor that recognizing the power of labor is one of the, I guess, the greatest organized group of people, or the most powerful organized group of people in this country, I think, is labor. And so I think it's responsibility of those who have the power to make a difference now. And we can make a difference with about the level of inequality and that we have, but we got to move forward. So yeah,
absolutely.
and I think more and more people are becoming aware of that, given what we've seen happening over the last, even the last few months, not to mention the last couple of decades. But I think even more crystallized now.
Yeah. Michael, if you don't mind if I pontificate a little bit more, but Benny, you brought up labor. And I don't know about you, but back in the day, labor was, your neighbor, and most of your neighbors were part of labor. So the labor movement was all over. It was just a natural part. And of course, 30, 40 years of unibus and all that stuff, it's been tough, but we've been on the upswing. My point though is even labor, in order to survive, and again, I'm not just in grassroots and community wealth building, but I'm here in the belly of the beast, DC, working as a progressive activist, very familiar with the inside stuff. Labor has been forced to kind of step away and not be as, shall we say, community oriented as we were used to, but that's now beginning to change. And I think, ironically, it's the local labor power that's understanding where in their neighborhoods they need to invest. And I think that's starting to come back a little more. It certainly was during the Biden administration.
Yeah.
So labor's got to be part of that. They're very important, and they kind of had to go away for a little while. But they're recognizing they're still a major, principle in our community. So they got to be part of this.
People are waking up. As a former UAW president there in Nashville.
Oh, there you go.
Of a group called NOAH, Nashville Organized for Action and Hope. That was a group of labor organizations, churches, and community nonprofits that got together, formed a coalition that became a pretty powerful force there. And really, this gave me the platform to start the Co-op Center. So yeah, labor, when they recognize and when I say labor, I mean workers. And that's not, again, 99% of us who have to live.
So one of the things I've always appreciated about Michael and his networks and his work is, how much he ties together all these components that have to come together. I'll give you an example. In Alabama, speaking of labor, they worked with the Toyota plant coming to Alabama. And they worked on a huge, serious battle of, community benefit. And as you know, when the big boys come in, they give you a few crumbs and everyone's supposed to be happy. Longest story short, the union was very integral in creating an agreement with the Toyota to have employ 1,000 people at this plant, 1,000 people. So that's great. So now you're gonna have 1,000 local jobs in a plant that's now not going away or could help. So I talked to some of the labor leaders doing this, and I said, "So great victory! Now you're gonna have 1,000 people in this area." I said, "How's your housing market down there?" "Oh, lacking affordable housing." I said, "Around this particular plant, what's the black and brown business ownership? We never even thought about it." I said, "So here's kind of where I'm coming from as an activist, social entrepreneur, taking a page from the Michael Schuman's book is, well, if you negotiated that kind of impact, you want one lane jobs, which is very important. But what happens is when you have 1,000 people there, then those that have the money will come in and they'll buy up all the housing. And then, so my point is, and this is where, again, Michael, the reason why I'm really very proud to be working with the Michaels who, can document this, whereas we've been on the front lines doing this, is when you do this next time, labor, make sure you factor all these things in, because there's so much integrated economic power that can happen before the deal is done. And that's then all of a sudden, can you imagine 1,000 housing or people and the housing market that we could, if we had a co-op in that community before, basically the big boys come in and buy up everything. Imagine if we had that lined up, or if we had a whole series of crowdfund initiatives to fund all those small businesses, those 1,000 workers are going to go to when they're done their shift. This is what we need to do, is really integrate a very comprehensive way to do this. We can't do this one sector and one off at a time. And bringing all that together is a really tough thing to do. And of course, Michael and many of us on this call have spent a lifetime trying to, implement practical things, always under source, and with a political power, unfortunately, almost always against our best interests. So anyway, I'll get off my soapbox and just want to say you guys are doing great work and keep at it, and we shall overcome.
So Benny, I know, and I neglected to ask you about the housing work that you're doing, apropos of Steve's question. Maybe you want to speak a little bit to that.
Yeah, because we recognize the evil of gentrification that forces people out of the communities. And one of the things that we hope, because we recognize that a person isn't separated from the community, we are interconnected. And so one of the things we hope to do was to bring more stability to communities, not just through jobs, because we are interested in more than just jobs. We're interested in stable housing. So we formed a community land trust that will allow us to take property out of the speculative market and put it in the permanently affordable market. And we are developing limited equity cooperative housing. Actually, we converted one property. We're still in the process of converting a property that had been rental units to limited equity co-ops in Nashville. And this is a pilot project to illustrate the benefits of community land trust with limited equity co-ops that gives ownership opportunity to the low income, because these are targeted to the low income, give ownership opportunities where before they've been renters at the mercy of the landlord. So that's something that we are completing that project and hope to transact the conversion in December. We've got a couple of others that we're looking at. We hope to get something determined on that soon, within the next few weeks, as a matter of fact. But yeah, that's another area that we definitely need to have an impact on. And that's, again, when I talked about possibly forming an investment group like UGMA, that's part of what we want to do. We've got to bring in enough capital so that we can do more of this work, as well as doing the work with the worker co-ops. Again, if we want to do more than create jobs, because we want to fully value the humanity of workers. And that means creating not just jobs, but vocations. And that's what we're hoping to do.
Yeah, and as you were talking about that, it did strike me that the housing finance would be a great place to start to bring in some local capital and grow that network of people in Tennessee who are interested in recycling capital there. Kenneth, Natalie, KK, we've heard nothing from you. We don't have to hear anything from you, but if you've got any burning questions, we've got just a few minutes left. All right, I hear nothing from them. I hope they're doing okay. Oh, there's Kenneth. Hi, Kenneth.
Yeah, hi. Hello everyone. This was more of a learning exercise for me that so I really don't have it. So thank you um, for the session.
Kenneth, where are you based?
I am based in Brooklyn, New York.
Brooklyn. Okay. Well, Brooklyn is near and dear to many of us because that's where our Bard MBA program is based.
Oh, okay. Brooklyn?
In Dumbo.
Oh, Dumbo.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You call it the what, Bard MBA?
Yes, Bard College, based in Kingston, has a non-resident MBA program, and it's a well-kept secret.
Definitely must be. So I'm hearing of this for the first time.
But very, very nice to meet you.
Pleasure's all mine. Thank you.
Jen, I know you had a question or a suggestion too as well, and maybe use that as a segue for just wrapping things up a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. And, Michael asked me, Benny, before you came on, like, how did you connect with, this organization? And I know it was because of the connection with labor and faith, which is something that I was involved with. A food co-op was something that we always held at a very long arm's distance. So I think that's when I saw your organization and went, I want to learn more about how they're entwining all this, because we didn't do a very good job of that. So I was wondering if you had heard about Neighborhood Economics, who has a event in Chicago in the end of September 29th, October 1st. Kevin Jones is usually here, but he's been working on his event. So that was one thing that I wanted to kind of ask, if you've connected with Neighborhood Economics yet in Asheville, North Carolina.
Asheville, no. I'm familiar with Kevin, Joe, though.
Good.
I had attended one of the neighborhood economics, I guess it was a conference in Indiana a couple of years ago, was it? And
the great COVID spreader event I was at too.
Oh no. Great. So that's fantastic.
Glad to see you still with us, Michael.
Yeah, well, the Kent, Benny, and everyone else was, we fell like flies at that event. All right, great. Well, Jen, and what's next in Community Capital Live?
Yeah, absolutely. So August 27th, we have Rosalie Franson of Help Fund from 2 to 3 p.m. She'll be with us. And then already we're in September. We have Justin Abyss of the Fair Finance Fund, another Canadian endeavor, on September 10th from 2 to 3 p.m. Eastern time. So I will follow up with everybody who's registered, which there are about 17 or 18 who have registered today, and let them know about what's coming up next, and also give them a recording of what this discussion that we had today.
Great. And I should say all of our previous interviews like this and discussions are available for you to view. There's now about 30 of them. We've been doing this for almost 2 years. And please spread the word. I want to thank Benny for sharing his great work with us. Give you a little quiet round of applause here. And good luck on what you're doing, and please feel free to reach out if there's any way we can be helpful to you. And let me just also thank again the sponsors of this: Neighborhood Economics, Main Street Journal, Impact Alpha, and Amoeba. And thank all of you for coming today. It's a slow time in the middle of the summer. People have lots of things to do, but good time to rethink our strategy and get a great comeback in this country. Take care all, and see you all in 2 weeks.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.